What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal Podcast. This is episode number 138. I'm your host, Armando Marsal. You can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. Before jumping into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all. Remember, if you're enjoying the podcast, enjoying the content, enjoying the show, please make sure you follow, rate, review, like the podcast wherever it is you're consuming it. You can also find this show on my YouTube channel at Mind of Marsal there. So make sure you're following, subscribing, and checking out the videos there as well. It is Thursday, and I got my guy Chris Rose here, and we're going to talk some divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Chris, how's it going, brother?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. The wild card round I thought was really good, man. Like it was a lot of
Yeah.
good football on TV. I've had conversations with friends, families, and it's just been. I mean, it was a great product that we saw some really good football games for the most part. I think, so I am very excited about this divisional round here. I think a lot of great matchups here. And I think there's going to be some surprises here this weekend, man. I think expectations this week are a certain way, and I think we're going to see some different things here. But overall thoughts, man, on the playoffs so far, Chris?
So I really liked what I saw from Jacksonville. I know they lost, but they had that game, man. They should have won that game. I was rooting for them. I like what I saw. I think they have a very good coaching staff. Liam Cohen there, and they have a very good core of players. So they're exciting. I think the biggest surprise to me was how bad the Steelers looked. I mean, that was a game where they gave up 23 points in the fourth quarter. That game was close, and all of a sudden, Rodgers just fell apart with the fumble, the pick six. So just unfortunate on the Pittsburgh side. I think that might be the last we see of Aaron Rodgers, but that Texans defense is going to be so tough, man. And then again, the team that I said was going to make it to the Super Bowl, the Niners pulling it out against the Eagles. Great game. I know losing George Kittle hurts a little bit, but they do have some backups that are going to play well. And then just going into like the Patriots, I think that's going to be. I'm going to stick by. I think it's going to be Patriots Niners.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be an uphill battle here for the 49ers without Kittle, but I'm not counting them out at all. I just posted the staff picks over at fantasyguru.com, before you and I went live, and I picked the 49ers to win that game as well. They're against Seattle. It is a tough matchup. And, we'll talk about the matchups here. We'll talk about this game in general. I was not surprised they beat the Eagles, man. Like to me, that was we talked about it, you and I, and to me, that was probably going to be the toughest game that you decide between. I talked about it with Tyler Beaker as well when we did last week's show. We talked about drafters and whatnot. To me, like that was the toughest game to really pick and choose because both teams are pretty solid. But I had said for the 49ers winning that game. So not surprised. I agree with you 100%, man. I was expecting the Jaguars to win that game against Buffalo, and it was a hell of a game. Really was a hell of a game. But it just I think the future is bright in Jacksonville. We'll say this. I think they have a lot to look forward to. Really great season, really great showing. Just fell short there in this game, but I do think that the future is bright there in Jacksonville. It just goes to show, right? Like Josh Allen, like this is one of the better quarterbacks in football. It's just, it's tough to bet against him. And he just finds way to get it done. Like without question, Jacksonville, in my opinion, had the better roster. Like if you look at the roster, they're the better team, right? But you just can't rule out quarterbacks like Josh Allen. And we're going to talk about them this week as well here against Denver. It's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, man, I definitely have enjoyed these games so far. I was surprised the run that the Rams got from Carolina, dude. Did you see that? Like I
I
thought
was, dude. I thought they were going to pull it out.
me too. I was like, what the hell? I was like, that was the most surprising one out of all. And then Chicago Green Bay, I thought Green Bay was going to win that game if we're being honest. I think Love played a hell of a game. But Chicago, man, they did what they've been doing all season long, right? And that's finding
It's
a
hard.
way to fucking win. Like that's what it is. That's what they've been doing all season long. It hasn't always looked pretty for Chicago, but they've found a way to win, right? And at this point, like yeah, I think the Rams win this game against them, but I don't necessarily completely rule out Chicago because they just figure it out. So For me, yeah, I definitely think this is one of those situations, man, where um, it's anyone's game at this point right now, Chris. Before we dive into, there was some coaching changes. I kind of want to get your thoughts on Harbaugh going to New York, man. Like, a lot of people are like, I would have loved him in Miami if we're being 100%, but this was never a landing spot. It was never a possibility. Why? Because you look at Miami and there's just so much. You're starting from the ground up essentially, right? Like, there's a lot of holes here. There are so many moving pieces. Like, this is basically you're rebuilding from scratch, is what I look at it. And I don't think Harbaugh was in that position. And I'm not saying the Giants are there, but man, do they have some really good building blocks right now in place, right? You got Jackson Dart, who looked phenomenal. Malik Neighbors, yes, he missed all season, but could be back next year. Scadaboo, I mean, a pretty solid defense. Like, this is a pretty good foundation there in New York, and I think with a coach like Harbaugh, I think you can see a quick turnaround here. I'm not going to say New England like, but very similar, right? We see some of these teams kind of, turn things around with new coaching staffs with these young quarterbacks. So I'm excited for this, man. I'm pumped to see what happens here in New York. I expect him to bring some of his guys as well here. What are your thoughts on Harbaugh in New York?
Major upgrade. Major upgrade. Great for Jackson Dart. Great for this passing game. Great for this team all around. A proven winner, and I think he's going to come in and absolutely turn that NFC East is going to be even tougher now. Jaden Daniels coming back for the Commanders. Dallas playing well this year, and I think it's going to be a big turnaround. I would not be surprised to see them as a playoff team next year.
Yeah, man. It's not, in my opinion, it's very feasible, dude. Like, I think it's very feasible. It really depends, obviously, with the moves they make. I expect them, to beef up that O line. I expect them to improve, in certain areas here. But I think, we see it time and time again, man. Good coaches, good coaching systems, good, it helps teams, man. It's so key in success here for some of these teams. So I'm excited. Do you think Mike Tomlin coaches in 2026?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Tomlin go to the Ravens.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some reports linking the two, but interested to see what whether it comes into fruition or not. Because remember, like, so the Steelers still hold, I believe they hold like some rights or something. So like they would have to be like they would have to receive something, right?
Yeah. Now, if he doesn't get a head coaching position and Flores leaves Minnesota, don't be surprised to see him go back to Minnesota because before he got hired with Pittsburgh, Tomlin was the DC for the Vikings. So don't be surprised if he goes back to Minnesota to be a DC.
Oh, there you go. Would you like that as a Vikings fan?
I don't know. I would like to see if Shula doesn't get the a head coaching job. I'd like if he leaves. I wouldn't mind Shula. Same kind of mindset that Flores does. Kind of manipulates his blitzes. I actually played against Shula in high school, and when he played at St. Thomas Aquinas. But I don't know. I think Tomlin. I would rather have someone opposite of him.
Yeah, there you go. Chris does not want Tomlin in Minnesota, ladies and
No,
gentlemen,
I
right?
want
It's all
Flores
right.
back. I hope Flores has burned every bridge in the NFL that forces him back to Minnesota.
I think he's a great coordinator, man, to be honest with you.
He's not a head coach.
Yeah. Do you think Mike McDaniel, so last coaching, what do you think about Mike McDaniel? Do you think he gets a head coaching job or he takes a coordinator job? What do you think?
I think he takes an OC coordinator job somewhere, probably Detroit.
I think that's the perfect fit. Like I
Great
just
for him.
I 100% think that's the perfect. I know it's like chalky, and I know everyone wants to see it. I want to see it too. I'm one of those people that wants to see it too because you look at this that supporting cast,
Yep,
and you look at what he can do as a coordinator and calling plays. I mean, it to me, it's going to be a huge bounce back season for Detroit if they can make that happen.
definitely.
Um, all right, let's dive into the divisional round. And unlike we do most other weeks where we go position by position, Chris, you and I will be diving into this from a game by game perspective here, Chris. Um, and we'll start it off there with Buffalo at Denver. We got the Bills going to Denver there, and we got the number one seed. Obviously, Buffalo stuck it to or not stuck it, but Buffalo made the playoffs. They a road team again here, and this game has a 46 over under, Chris. Denver favored by a point and a half here, and I had this conversation with my brother-in-law yesterday, and my thoughts on this, like quick thoughts are. Denver has the better roster. Denver has the better team. But I'm not going to rule Josh Allen out. And that's kind of one of those situations where we look at it last week. Jacksonville had the better roster. Jacksonville had the better team. He went into Jacksonville and found a way to win. I think Denver wins this game, personally. All right. I
Yeah.
think Denver wins this game. I chose them to win this game in our staff picks. What are your thoughts on this game? And then when you're looking at matchups that you want to target, players that you're targeting, where are we looking at here from this for this matchup?
Yes, I think overall Denver does win this game. I think at home going to be big for them, especially playing in the Mile High. You have the number 6 ranked defense against the run going against the number 1 run offense. So if Buffalo can't get anything going on the ground with James Cook, I think it's going to be a long game. We mentioned like anytime we play defenses, we can always attack Josh Allen because he's a great quarterback, but he is turnover prone. So uh, from what I saw with last week and how Buffalo played, I think Denver's just going to go ahead and run this game. I think they're just going to, if this is a more than less than a 2-score game, I'll probably be surprised. But I think Denver just goes out and wins this game by 2 scores. I don't love this is not a game that I really love fantasy wise. There's no one that really stands out for me, to be honest with you. If you look on the Buffalo side, I think Shakir's like one of the worst matchups here. James Cook has one of the hardest matchups. There's nothing that really stands out on either side, to be honest with you. So for me, this is a game I'm probably going to fade, and I think Denver runs away with it. Now, if you follow along and you say that Denver's going to run away with it, I think there's a case for RJ Harvey at 6,200 on DK. I think he's an interesting play, especially in the pass game. It mentions a lot. 21st ranked defense against the run is Buffalo. I think Harvey could have a big game.
Yeah, so a couple numbers here and noteworthy stats. So, all right, so the Bills finished the season, and this is the regular season. All these numbers that I'm going to read off today are regular season numbers, not including any numbers in the first round of the postseason. So, in the regular season, the Bills finished 12th in pass DVOA, 31st in rush DVOA, 14th in DVOA against wide receiver one, 19th in DVOA against wide receiver two, 7th in DVOA against tight ends, 27th in rush defense per PFF, 7th in pass rush per PFF, 31st in tackling, and 16th in coverage against wide receivers. The Broncos, you mentioned, this is an elite defense. They finished 8th in pass DVOA, 3rd in rush DVOA, 5th in DVOA against wide receiver ones, 13th in DVOA against wide receiver two, 18th in DVOA against tight ends. They ranked 5th in rush defense, 11th in pass rush, 12th in tackling, and 8th in coverage against opposing wide receivers. The one player that truly stands out to me here, Chris, is RJ Harvey. You mentioned it, right? Like if there's one player, I actually view him as a building block if you're playing the entire weekend. And I think he's a must play if you're playing only the Saturday only slate, right? So you look at the numbers here and you look at opportunities. Over his last 5 games, he had at least 19 opportunities in every single game with 20 plus opportunities in 3 of those games. So I mean, just continues to see a bunch of, opportunities there. This is a Bills defense that allow well over 100 rushing yards per game to the running back position, 5 yards per carry, 18 rushing touchdowns, which is a league high. So a team that we've been targeting all season long, with opposing running backs. This is another week. Last week, Travis Etienne, I'm doing the DFS breakdown there at fantasyguru.com, and he was a building block for me last week. And this week it's going to be RJ Harvey because I'm going to continue to target this run defense. So for me, this is a very, very good matchup here for RJ Harvey. Love this spot for him. And I just look at him as a very strong play this weekend and one of my top running backs on the board. Top three, top two on my board this week. Look, Josh Allen is obviously in a difficult spot. Like there's no denying it. But what he brings to the table between his rushing ability and just his way to his ability to just create plays and make these big plays. I always think you have to consider him, right? Like he's the one player in Buffalo that I'm saying, all right, I'm in. I'm not really necessarily all in on, I agree with you with Shakir. Like I know the production last week was good, and he is going to be that security blanket. He had 12 targets last week. Um, I'm just not doing it. That was against the Jaguars defense that did somewhat. I'm going to say they were a bad pass defense, but they did somewhat funnel to the pass a little bit more than they were a much better run defense than a pass defense. So that was, something that you do have to take into account here. I think if you are going to pair anyone up here, with Allen, it'd be one of his tight ends. But even then, like it's not where I'm going here. For me, it's just Josh Allen. You could play it without anyone else if you want to pay up for Josh Allen. You want exposure. Obviously, if you're playing the Saturday, like if you're playing the Saturday only slate, the quarterback you're probably gonna be looking at is from this game, right? So Josh Allen is obviously the one with the highest ceiling. But I don't necessarily think he's the best overall when you're looking at the overall weekend slate here, Chris. Bo Nix is interesting to me. Buffalo's defense, I mean, they're not great. This is, right now, when you look at the postseason, Buffalo might have one of the weaker defenses of all the teams, out there. You got San Francisco, I know. You got Chicago's defense, can be shaky, but this is not a great defense. I think Bo Nix is fine. I like Cortland Sutton here as well. Don't mind like Pat Bryant. Let's not forget that. If you're looking for value here, I think Pat Bryant is very interesting. Here at 3,900, he's someone that he looked down the stretch and very involved. For you look at week 13 on, and he had 7, 4, 8, 5 targets, 3,900 in a favorable matchup here in a game where we both think that the Denver could win. That Denver's going to post points. So I think Pat Bryant is very much in play here as a value option. When you look at, Buffalo, again, they're obviously much weaker against the run than they are against the pass, but this is not a matchup I'm avoiding here from Pat Bryant. Any thoughts on Bo Nix, like as a kind of value option here this week? When you look at his price tag, he's what, the fifth? He's the fifth price quarterback. There's 8 quarterbacks on the slate. He's fifth, 5,800 there. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get to him. There's, probably someone that's a little bit more expensive that I like a lot more. I think this game will probably be dominated on the ground for me. And I'm keeping this player pool extremely tight. So probably won't get to Knicks.
I'll say this: he's probably top 4 on my board. He's the fifth
Yeah.
ranked. He's probably top 4 on my board. You can make a case for top 3. Really depends on where you stand with someone like Drake May in his matchup. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at here. I don't mind James Cook, man, but this is a difficult matchup. I know he's capable of doing it even in difficult matchups, but when you look at the running backs, he's probably 4th on my board. When you're looking at the entire weekend slate, he's probably 4th on my board. If you're playing the Saturday only slate, I still don't think he's a building block because there are several other pieces here that we're going to discuss, you and I.
Yep.
Anything else here in this game? Where do you have Cortland Sutton as far as your receiver? When you're looking at it from an overall weekend perspective, does he make your top 4 or 5?
Uh, he probably falls in the top 5. Just it's probably difficult for me to get there.
Yeah, it's not easy, right? Like it's not easy to
Yeah.
get all these guys in there. All right, anything else
Price
in this?
price tag price tag wise, he makes sense at 5,900, but it's probably not going to get there.
Problem with him is like he's in that like so I have he's 5,900. Adams is a little bit, we haven't talked about Adams. Adams is a little bit
Yeah.
cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then you got the Bears receivers that are all cheaper. I definitely will have like look, it depends on what you're playing. Like in the Saturday only slate, I think you're definitely gonna be playing Sutton, right?
Right.
But on the weekend only slate, he's not a necessarily a building block per se, though. So I would say like he's viable, but it depends on what you're playing, what slates you're playing, and you know, kind of the route you're going. So definitely a viable option. I do think he's fairly priced, that's for sure. I do think he's fairly priced, and I'm not completely against it, but he's not someone that stands out or a priority play by any means for me. Um, anything else in this game?
No.
All right, we got Seattle and San Francisco facing off. This game is in Seattle. The 49ers are 7-point dogs here, so Seattle's favored by 7 points. The over-under of this game is 45 points here. The Seahawks finished the season ranked first in pass DVOA, first in rush DVOA, first in DVOA against opposing wide receiver ones, sixth in DVOA against wide receiver twos, 16th in DVOA against tight ends, second in rush defense per PFF, 10th in pass rush, 19th in tackling, and second in coverage against receivers. The 49ers are not as good defensively. They finished the season ranked 26th in pass DVOA, 25th in rush DVOA, 11th in DVOA against wide receiver 1, 32nd in DVOA against wide receiver 2, 4th in DVOA against tight ends. The 30th in rush defense per PFF, 27th in pass rush, 21st in tackling, and 24th in coverage against wide receivers. Chris, two different defenses here between Seattle and San Francisco. We both said that we thought the 49ers are going to make it, or you said you thought the 49ers were going to make it all the way. I said I thought the 49ers were going to win last week. I'm very optimistic about them this week. I picked them to win this week as well. I do acknowledge it is going to be an uphill battle without George Kittle. But talk to me about this game and how are you targeted from a DFS perspective?
Yeah, I still think San Francisco wins this game. I don't get the 7 point dogs here. I know that they split the season series, but 7 points, I get it's at home, but I still think San Francisco wins this game. You have the best running back in football this year with Christian McCaffrey, who's still a weapon no matter what. A lot of fantasy relevance here. First and foremost, JSN at 8,500, little bit of a price discount there, can fit him in. But I think the biggest beneficiary of Kittle going down is Juwan Jennings. I think it's also Christian McCaffrey at 8,800, still going to be heavily involved in the passing game. Had 6 targets in their Week 18 loss, and then had 10 targets in their Week 1 win at Seattle. So I do like this. I mentioned two of the quarterbacks that I like. I think Brock Purdy at 5,600 just makes sense. It's a tough matchup, but I do think this is a game that he'll throw a lot in. On the other side, probably not going to get the Sam Darnold. Just don't really trust him right now. I know it's weird saying that with how good he's been, but just don't trust him in this matchup. And then I think the guy Jake Tongas at 3,400 just he filled in for Kittle last when Kittle was out. He had that big game against Chicago where he had seven catches for 60 yards and that touchdown. I think at 3,400 just makes sense just to lock him in and move on from that. I still stand by. I think San Francisco wins this game by a score. But there's a lot of relevance here. If I'm going to play the entire slate, um, both all 4 games, a lot of core players are going to come from here.
Yeah, so I'll start on the Seahawks side for me. Like Sam Darnold, probably one of the lower, quarterbacks on my board this week. It is a good matchup. I probably will have exposure through him with Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? Like if you look at Jackson Smith and Jigba, this is a smash spot. 49ers giving up a 67% catch rate to wide receivers, very high among the NFL teams here. So they've also given up over 26 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers on the season on all sites. Very good matchup here for Jackson Smith. We know that the volume share is very high for him. Um, I just think that he's going to continue to do what he's been doing all season. He's their guy. He's obviously a high target share there for him. Someone who gives you both a strong floor and insane ceiling. One of the better receivers right now in the entire slate. You can make the case that it's between him and Nakua. You make your case for whichever of the two. Um, both in good spots. I think both are very much in play. I think they're both going to be very popular. I'm looking at, obviously ownership, and he's among, one of the higher owned wide receiver right now. When you look at projection ownership here, he's projected to be 46%, the highest owned on the state, rightfully so. So I'm in on Nakua. I'm sorry, on Jackson Smith-Njigba. I obviously think he's in a great spot. I don't mind secondary pieces here either. Like I don't mind like a Cooper Cup if you're looking for a little bit of a floor, just some production. If you're looking for that boomer bust, Shaheed is someone to consider here as well. So I definitely think that these guys are playing. And I'm not going to rule out Darnold, from the Saturday only slate. Like for me, he's just outside the top 5 when you're looking at the overall weekend slate for me. And obviously in the Saturday only slate, you can everyone's pretty much all these quarterbacks you can make a case for in the Saturday only slate. He's still not someone I'm going to prioritize, but this is obviously one of the better matchups of any quarterback on the slate this weekend here. So don't necessarily hate him, but I'm just not gravitating towards him here. How are you handling this backfield, Chris? Like, what are we doing here with this backfield in Seattle? We know that they've continued to use both Charbonnet and Ken Walker. Um, are you going to any of these guys this week? Like, are any of these guys, because you look at the price tags, you look at the matchup at hand, and this is a 49ers defense. They gave up 4.5 yards per carry to the running back position. We know that Seattle can run the football here. If they are going to be playing with a lead, right? They could lean on these two running backs. What are we doing here with this backfield?
I hate having to close my eyes and throw a dart on either one of these guys. That's how it's been all year. They've kind of split the carries 17-16. So, I mean, if you want to play one, if you need a value play and you want to go three running backs, they're kind of in the same boat. I mean, if you have 5,500, lock in Walker. If you have 5,300, play Charbonnet. That's the difficult part. You don't know who's going to get the red zone carries. You don't know who's going to break one from the 20 or the red zone in. So for me, I kind of play it conservatively and just don't play either one of them. Just hope that they kind of split enough where it won't hurt me.
It's funny because they both had good games in their last meeting against San Francisco, right? They both returned value. I definitely think it's a high variance way to approach the slate because, like you mentioned, there's so much uncertainty with how they're going to distribute the touches and the opportunities between these two running backs has been like that all season. It is a guessing game. But I would not be stunned if either of these guys go off. I'll say this. I always lean towards Walker because he's so explosive and he's so, he has that gear in his game where he could just take one to the house any given time, whether it's a reception, whether it's a run. So that explosiveness, that big playability always kind of, intrigues me. So I'm gonna lean him if I'm choosing one. Very difficult. The overall weekend slate probably not going to be going there. But I definitely think that on the Saturday only slate, choosing this backfield right can be the difference between cashing big or not cashing in the Saturday only slate. On the 49er side, this is a very difficult matchup for Brock Purdy, right? And he doesn't have Kittle. So for me, probably not going to be playing Purdy all that much. I think McCaffrey's in a tough spot, but the usage is just insane, right? Like in his role in the passing game, and I think now with Kittle, that's going to definitely increase. I know Jennings is going to be a primary beneficiary as well. Tongs is going to benefit, but I don't think Christian McCaffrey is not going to benefit. Like I definitely think he's going to be big beneficiary as well. We already know he's a high volume guy in the passing game. He had at least 6 targets in each of his last 4 games. Someone that's just consistently, seeing a ton of opportunities. You look back at week one, he didn't run well against Seattle, but guess what? He was targeted 10 times. He had 9 catches and 73 receiving yards in that game. All right, over 20 fantasy points because of his role. He averaged 3.1 yards per carry in that game, Chris, but yet he still managed to score 20 plus fantasy points. I'm very much in on Christian McCaffrey despite the tough matchup. I prefer him over James Cook when I'm looking at the high price guys. Like I know that they're the only two running backs over 7K. I know there's a $1,500 discrepancy between the two, and there's a big difference, right? But I still rather pay those extra 1,500 for McCaffrey over James Cook. I just look at this and I acknowledge it, right? This is not an ideal matchup. This is not a great matchup, but I am fully on board with going with McCaffrey here. You look at Seattle. There's one thing about Seattle. They're exceptional run defense, but guess what? They've allowed the most targets. They've allowed 97 receptions, which is also a league high, and then 640 receiving yards there. So they are allowing production to the passing, in the passing game to running backs here, Chris. So I'm very much in on McCaffrey. He's probably my favorite 49ers player by a wide margin. And then I would probably say Tongs is another one. Jake Tongs is another one that I kind of like here. I do look at the value here for him, and I do think that this is a spot where he could take advantage of, and I do expect his role to increase. We've seen that with him. So very good price there at 3,400 on DraftKings. Jennings, are you gonna play Jennings? Like, is Jennings gonna be someone you're gonna be gravitating towards? Because I'm
Got to be a
probably
core
not.
play. I'm
Yeah,
playing Jim.
he's a core play for you. Wow, 5,400. Man, this is a tough matchup, man. Um, I get it.
Just volume this week.
What would you like? Would you expect like what, eight, upwards of 8 targets?
Yeah.
Um, I could get behind it, but for me, he's probably not going to be someone I'm prioritizing. If you're stacking this game, it makes sense. Him or Cortland Sutton, who do you prefer?
Definitely Jennings in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other secondary pieces like Demarcus Robinson last week had a big game, six catches, 111 yards, a touchdown there, 4,400. Are you going back to the wall there, or are you not chasing that production from last week?
I think it depends on Ricky Pearsall's if his health coming into this game. Um, It'll be interesting. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play him. If Pearsall is out, I'll go to Robinson.
And if Pearsall is in, do you consider Pearsall number one? And does that do anything as far as Jennings is concerned, number two?
No, because he's been so banged up this entire year. Still going Jennings. He's that wide receiver one.
Um, Anything else here in this game? AJ
Uh,
Barner?
no, I'm not going to go to AJ Barner.
No. All right. Anything else in this game?
The only one I just mentioned earlier is Jake Tungus. I know you mentioned him as well. Just Tungus at 3,400 should get a lot of that passing.
Yeah. Very next game here, Texans at New England. And this game has a 40.5 over under. New England favored by 3 points. The defensive stats here. The Patriots finished the season 25th in pass DVOA, 17th in rush DVOA, 31st in DVOA against opposing wide receiver ones, 14th in DVOA against wide receiver twos, 15th in DVOA against tight ends, 19th in rush defense per PFF, 18th in pass rush, third in tackling, third in coverage against opposing receivers. The Texans finished second in pass DVOA, second in rush DVOA, sixth in DVOA against wide receiver ones, 11th in DVOA against wide receiver two, second in DVOA against tight ends, seventh in rush defense, second in pass rush, 18th in tackling, and sixth in coverage against wide receivers. I mean, this unit fucking annihilated the Steelers last week. This is, in my opinion, one of the best defenses we've seen in a very long time. Like I get like those that Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Ravens like defense feel like right now. That's what I'm kind of getting from this defense. And I said this on Tuesday with Justin Fensterman, and whoever wins this game, in my opinion, I think it's going to be New England is going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Like that's my honest opinion. You got one of the best defenses we've seen in quite some time, right? And then you got a very good overall team. Like you look at New England on both sides of the football, they're very good defensively, they're very good offensively, and they're fucking well coached. Like this is a really good football team. What are your thoughts on this game, Chris? And then how are you treating it in the DFS perspective?
So I think fantasy purposes, I don't love this game just because of how good both defenses, naturally the Texans defense, but think how good both defenses could play. I think there's a couple pieces you could play. I don't know if I'll get to someone like a Drake May. I know he's the popular choice, 6,300. Don't think I'll get there, but you have some revenge narrative with Stephon Diggs going back playing Houston, who was a part of. I think the running backs are definitely in play here. Woody Marks had arguably the best week as a running back last week with 19 carries, over 100 yards in that score. I think Travion Henderson has to find a way to be a difference maker this week for them to win. He's just so dynamic both in the run and pass game. Again, there's not a ton I love here fantasy purposes wise. I think it hits the under, but I do think New England wins this game.
Yeah, and the big news here is like Nico Collins is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Like we've seen this in the NFL, right? Where the turnaround for concussions, they usually sit out the next week after suffering a concussion. So he has not been cleared. Is definitely something to monitor and keep an eye on. But I was stunned, like that the one player that came out and blew up for Houston last week was Christian Kirk, dude. Like he like 23 receiving routes. I was not expect. I would have expected Jaden Higgins, right? Like to take over. Jaden Higgins not that involved. You look at it, they just Jalen Noel not that involved. Like it seems like the Texans really didn't trust their rookies in a meaningful game, right? So um, interested to see how this would play out. Obviously, if Nico Collins is out, that's going to be a huge blow to this offense. I think they're going to continue to lean on someone like Kirk. I'm sorry. I also think that you're going to see a little bit more Higgins this week than you did last week. That's without question, in my opinion. So I definitely think, and you're going to see, I think, more Schultz as well, right? I think that's another player that's going to benefit if Nico Collins does indeed miss out. Like, what do you think? Do you think he plays, Chris?
I don't know, man. It's
I'm not
gonna be.
optimistic. I'm not
I'm not.
optimistic about it.
Yeah, I'm not either. Um, it's. I think they're gonna try to rush him back. To be honest with you, to get him to play. But I mean, he still is not wasn't spotted at practice last week. I mean, yesterday it's now Thursday. The only thing that's on their side of this game is Sunday afternoon. Give him a little bit more time, but I mean, if he doesn't play, I think you got to lock in. This is a week where if Nico Collins doesn't play, I think you scrap Tungus and you go Schultz and just lock him in because he's going to be heavily involved.
You also have to keep an eye on Christian Gonzalez's status. Like he also dealing with that concussion.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's expected to clear. That's what the reports are. But you still got to keep an eye on that, right? Like that's important information here too. That would definitely be a big blow to the Patriots defense there. For me, look on we'll start with the Houston side. It's Nico Collins' status means a lot. If he plays, I think he's very much a play. You can make a strong case for him being one of the better pay up options on the slate. Just continues to be a huge weapon for this Texas offense. And I do think that I know they're good defensive unit, but I do expect them to be playing from behind. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be airing it out, but I do think that that's going to mean opportunities for Nico Collins. I mean, you look at the numbers last week before he suffered the injury, he was targeted 7 times. Um, the target share is going to be there. This is a New England defense that is far better against the run than they are against the pass. So this would be a point of attack for the Houston's offense. And then if he's out, like you mentioned, Schultz has been a security blanket, and kind of a floor play on a week-to-week basis for this Texans offense. I think he's someone that's going to be very much a play. I think he's in play regardless here. You look at, this New England team and if, they haven't, okay, so they haven't allowed a ton of touchdown and stuff like that, but they are giving up a 72% catch rate, and they were among the top 12 in receiving yards allowed to the position. So it is a team that gives some production here to the tight end position. So I think he's very much a play regardless. And then Marks, where does he rank amongst your running backs this week? Like, is he top four, top five, or just someone that if you're looking for a little bit of value, you can consider given the usage that you're seeing?
Probably number 5 for me.
Number five. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I was very impressed with the way he ran the football, man. Like, what I'm saying? He's running the football really hard. 5.9 yards per carry last week. Some of this is a bruiser, dude. Like he is a bruiser. I like the way he was with football. I think he's going to get a decent amount of opportunities here, regardless of the game script, regardless of the game environment, or how the game is. Because I do think no matter what, I do think it is going to be a competitive game. I don't expect New England or Texans to completely blow the other team out of the water here. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities here for Mark. So I agree with you. I think he's very much in play. Just keep in mind, this is a very tough, and I mean a very tough New England run defense, ladies and gentlemen. And we didn't see, we haven't seen Mark's involved a ton as a pass catcher with only two targets. Like he's surpassed the two target or the one target mark just 3 times since week 11 there. So keep that in mind. On the other side, I I'm probably not going to play the New England backfield. And this is one of those situations where it can always haunt you, right? Because they are very much involved in the passing game. And with these kind of defenses are very good against the run, you tend to leak a little bit of receiving the production to the running back position. So I could see a path where Henderson or Stevenson get production, but I don't know if there's going to be a ceiling game. What are we doing with Drake May though? So I'm not really all that in on the running backs here in New England, but what are we doing with Drake May in the passing game here?
So I think with how much pressure Houston gets on the quarterback, I think Drake May's biggest upside is going to be his legs this week, just to kind of get out of pressure, get out of harm. I don't think I'm going to get to him, as I mentioned. I just it's a tough. It's got the hardest tough matchup on the slate. It's got the tough, and so it's not. I'm not gonna. I just don't want to play him there. I want to take the safer route. Guy in the game in the next game. A guy in the next game that I like over May. So I probably have him ranked fourth favorite, but I do see the upside with his legs.
Yeah, I am very torn on what to do with May, if we're being 100% honest, because he has that rushing element of his game. He's playing some really good football. Um, I mean, look, last week's matchup, and it's not the same, right? Last week's matchup against the Chargers was a tough one. And in that
Yeah.
game, he struggled. Like in that game, he struggled, right? So we have to acknowledge that. So I am tempering expectations, but I still view May as a tournament option where he has a decent ceiling despite the difficult matchup. But I am tempering expectations here, so he's not a priority or a building block for me by any means. But I do acknowledge that he can get it done against anyone. Stephon Diggs, I just don't know if this is a matchup I want to target for him, man. Like you look at the price there, 5,800. He's kind of in between Sutton, Jennings. We haven't talked about the Bears receivers yet. So I, I'm just not going there, man. I really look at this and I think that this is going to be one of those physical, low scoring matchups, like where it's just like kind of what we saw with between Pittsburgh and Houston before Houston's defense just took over and scored multiple touchdowns. I really think that's what we're going to see here, where it's kind of a grinding it out and things like that, Chris. So not that interested in the receiver or the passing game here for New England. Look, Stroud doesn't do much, man. He's just basically been a game manager, and I think that that's what he's going to. I don't see this game shooting out, so that's where I want Stroud. This is not one of those games. Um, any interest in Henry in at the tight end position? I know he's dealing with it, the knee issue. No, it doesn't seem like it's a concern going into this week, but any interest in Henry here?
Probably won't get there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough to justify that given the matchup and price here at hand, Chris. Anything else for this game?
No, as I mentioned, I think this one hits the under.
Yeah, man, I don't dislike that, dude. I don't
Yep.
dislike that. All right, very next game, and I think this is the one that's going to generate the most interest in not only for you and I, but I think across the industry and across the consensus, everyone's going to be most invested in this game. Understandably so. Here, you got a matchup between the Bears and Rams. This game is in Chicago. The Rams are on the road, 3.5 point favorites here. This game has a 48.5 over under, the largest on the slate here this weekend. A couple defensive numbers here. Bears finished 24th in pass DVOA on the season, 28th in rush DVOA, 9th in DVOA against wide receiver ones, 20th in DVOA against wide receiver two, 10th in DVOA against tight ends, 22nd in rush defense per PFF, 25th in pass rush, 9th in tackling, 21st in coverage against receivers. The Rams, 4th in pass DVOA, 5th in rush DVOA, 17th in DVOA against wide receiver ones, 7th in DVOA against wide receiver two, 3rd in DVOA against tight ends, 2nd in rush defense, 3rd in pass rush, 13th in tackling, and 1st in coverage against wide receiver one, or I'm sorry, against wide receivers. Chris, I know this is a game you're interested in. You've been alluding to it entire show here. Talk to me about this game. Talk to me about who you're targeting and who you're building around.
Yeah, I think Kyron Williams is probably my favorite running back on the slate. I do like the spot a lot for him. Just a really good, not the best matchup, but I do like the spot for him. And in this same game, I like DeAndre Swift. I think Swift is another core play for me. So I'll have both running backs as core pieces for me. I think adding someone like Devontae Adams at his price tag at 6,500 makes sense as well. 12 points last week. I think this game shoots out. I think both defenses won't be able to stop both offenses. So I think having some pieces in this game makes sense. At the quarterback position, probably end up playing Caleb Williams. Just how good he's looked over the last 4 weeks, 20 or more DK points in 3 out of his last 4 games. Fantastic last week. Makes sense at his price tag, 6,100. I like him a lot. I'm probably going to pair him up. I'm probably not going to go to Odunze or DJ Moore. Probably just going to pair him up with Luther Burden here at 4,700. I don't think you necessarily need to pair him up with a receiver, but I like this spot as that third wide receiver for Luther Burden and the upside he gives you. I'm going to have a ton of pieces from this game. I think this is the best game of the slate. And I do think this one goes into the 50s.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is going to be the best, or I feel like this is, yeah, I do feel like this is going to be the best game environment on the slate when you're looking from a DFS and fantasy production without question. We just looking at some of the defensive numbers there, you kind of pointed it out. Like, I'll start with the Ram side, all right? And for me, Kyron Williams, a slam dunk play this weekend. I agree with you. He's the number one running back on my board. He's a building block. He and RG Harvey are my building blocks when you're looking at the overall main slate here. The Bears, they gave up 104.2 rushing yards per game, 4.8 yards per carry. They gave up only 9 rushing touchdowns, but they also gave up 5 receiving touchdowns to the running back position for a total of 14 touchdowns to running backs this season. So for me, Kyron Williams is just in a slam dunk spot. Someone who is very explosive. They utilize him a lot. And I think he's just going to run all over this Chicago defense without question in my mind, Chris. So for me, a building block without any doubt there. And then I like the receivers here as well, obviously, right? You look at the Bears and they're generous through the air as well. If you look at Chicago, I'm going to give you some quick numbers here. Against wide receiver ones, they're giving up the 10th most receiving yards per game. Against wide receiver twos, they're giving up the 4th most receiving yards per game. Lock in Nakua, lock in Devontae Adams. Look, I understand. Like I got Devontae Adams, someone I wrote up last week, and I thought, was in a good spot against Carolina. I was in on him, right? But guess what? Like he didn't produce, and I was, oh well, he 13 fucking targets. That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. 13 targets. He was very involved last week. I know they were back and forth. This is another game where, in my opinion, there's going to be back and forth. Like we don't rule out Chicago. I do think the Rams will win this one, but we're not ruling out Chicago here. I do think they're going to put up points on the board. It's going to be back and forth. I think this is the week where Adams goes off. And at 6,500, I am very much in on Adams. Like I feel like a full-blown Ram stack is very much in order. I do expect him to be one of the more popular plays of the weekend. When I'm looking at ownership and I'm looking at the wide receiver position and I look at Adams, he is at 20%. I think that number is going to be a little bit higher than that. I would see him closer to that 25-30% is where I'm projecting him at, especially because I do think that everyone's going to be stacking him. So for me, they're very much in play here. And then look, Matthew Stafford, you would agree, right? Probably the best overall play on the entire state when you're taking matchup and everything to consideration. I totally understand and I acknowledge that he doesn't have that rushing element and that rushing ability that some of the other quarterbacks have on this slate. But the best matchup is for Stafford. Like when you look at it, right? Like on paper, is one of the better matchups. You can make a case for Darnold, but I just look at two different quarterbacks and from two different levels, right? So for me, Stafford has been playing like an MVP all season, and then now he draws a favorable matchup in the postseason in a game where win or go home. He's going to show up. He's going to play some really good football, man. So I like this spot for him quite a bit. He's the number one quarterback on my board this week. And he's going to be chalky. I understand that, but that's fine. You know what? You're ways to pick and choose here to be different, and that's not the way to be different this weekend, in my opinion. You have him, or you said Caleb Williams is going to be your building block over Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I have Caleb over Williams. I mean, Caleb over Stafford.
Yeah, I like Caleb Williams a lot as well. He's very affordable here this week, and he's been playing, like you mentioned, lights out, over 20 DK points in 3 of his last 4 games. Had just a great game last week. When you look at it from a fantasy standpoint against the Packers last game out, obviously threw a couple of picks, but still found a way to get it done, man. Multiple touchdowns, some really good passes. I like that call quite a bit here. So you're going with Burton over Moore and Odunze this week.
Uh, yeah. So I like Luther Burden. I don't know if I'm going to pair him up with anybody. To be honest with you, I don't think you necessarily need to here. But I like Burden just based on price tag being the cheapest out of all three there.
It's so the challenging part about this and the funny part about this is like who would you like for me Odunze still remains that top wide receiver, right? Like in this team. Um, the Rams gave up the 3rd most receiving yards per game to wide receiver ones. Like the problem is that the way that the ball has been distributed in Chicago, like there's no, we've seen more kind of come to life down the stretch towards the end of the season. I know a lot of that what happened to be with Odunze out, but Moore had a good game last week, right? Burton has been very much involved. I think they're all in play. I think getting it right is could be the difference between winning this entire slate or not. I'll tell you this, I have Moore as my top one. I just gotta trust the season ending production from him. I gotta trust how he was utilized last week as well. He's 5,200. I actually have him as the lower owned of all of these receivers here as far as projections are concerned. So for me, I'm going to take that as a leverage play right there And just understand that there is volatility with this receiving group, right? Like there's definitely going to be now he is dinged up, right? Like he's dealing with a knee issue, but are you concerned at all about that knee issue?
No, he'll
Yeah,
play.
neither am I. Look, I, I'm gonna go with him as my guy, but I like all three of these very much because I do
Mhm.
expect the Bears to be trailing here. Um, and be chasing points. So I like that. It's going to be for me more Odunze, Burton, but I all very much at play. Swift, I love that call, dude. I really do love that call here. Someone who continues to see decent volume. Um, the price tag is very affordable. Someone who catch passes the backfield. The Rams struggle against pass catching backs. So I'm totally fine with DeAndre Swift here in this spot. Not top four, not top three, but definitely in the conversation for top five, top six here on the weekend. For me, Chris, where do you have Loveland among your tight ends?
Yeah, I think that's going to depend on Nico Collins' health. That would bump Schultz up there, but Loveland at 5,500, man, just so expensive. I know he's been good. He's been getting a lot of plus matchups over 90 yards in three straight games. At 5,500, I don't know if I can get there.
Yeah, man. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get to Loveland myself. I will say this. I do have interest on the other side, Chris. I do have a little bit of interest on the other side.
Yeah.
Higby for me is interesting. I know he didn't produce high in numbers last week, but still interesting piece for me at 3,200. Parkinson still, obviously scored a touchdown, but he only had three targets. So if you're choosing between the two, do you have any lean between Parkinson and Higby? And are any of these guys like strong options for you at their prices?
Yeah, I probably take the discount on Higby at 3,200. I think they're both in play.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, let's talk some defense. We really didn't talk defenses here. You and I usually, go down, work our way up. I would assume that you're probably doing the same here in the postseason. But
Mhm.
is there any defense that stands out to you here?
Probably just go Niners at 2,200, hoping that Darnold makes some mistakes. There's not really a defense unless you're playing. I think if Nico Collins doesn't play, I think it definitely makes a case for the Patriots at 3,600. That's if Gonzalez is playing. But I think at this case at 2,200 for a team that can force turnovers, I think the Niners just make sense at 2,200.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not prioritizing any defense, right? Like that's not what I'm doing this weekend. I'm letting my build lead to my defense. So like that would be the last piece I put in there, right? And if I have, 2,200 like you said, it'll be 49ers. If I have, 3K, it'll be the Rams. If I have, whatever the case may be, wherever I land really on defense, I'm letting my roster construction dictate that, Chris. So I agree with you 100%. I don't think there's any standout defenses this weekend for me. Obviously, Patriots and Houston would be the top two defenses, but they're also the most expensive ones. So keep that
Yeah.
in mind there. All right, Chris, we broke it down game by game. Let's do this. Let's give our top three quarterbacks. Let's give our top four running backs, our top five receivers, and our top three tight ends for the slate. And then we'll get on out of here and go on about our days, Chris. So let's start at the quarterback position. Let's go your top three.
My top three: Caleb, Stafford, Purdy.
I'm gonna go with Stafford, Caleb, and Knicks are my top three. Josh Allen just missed the cut. If he wasn't as expensive, he would have been there for me. All right,
Yeah.
so all right, so we got all right, you got that. All right, give me your top four running backs this weekend.
Top four running backs, probably going to go McCaffrey number one, Swift two, Kyron Williams three, RJ Harvey four.
I'm gonna go Kyron Williams one, RJ Harvey two, Christian McCaffrey three, and I'm gonna go with I want to say Ken Walker, number four, ladies and gentlemen, the wild card number four. DeAndre Swift just missed a cut for me there. All right, let's go with top five wide receivers, Chris. Top five wide receivers.
One, I'm putting Juwan Jennings at one. Two, Devontae Adams. Three, JSN. Four, Puka Nakua. And then 5, I'm probably going to go Cortland Sutton.
And obviously, this can definitely change with news and whatnot. So keep that in mind, everyone here with these receivers. We're still waiting on news. I'm gonna go number one is Devontae Adams, and for me, it's Price is very like. Remember, let's keep this in mind. Price is also playing a role in our decision making here. It's not just overall raw matchup or anything. Price is also playing a role here. So for me, Devontae Adams number one, Nakua number two, JSN number three. Um, DJ Moore, number four. And I'm gonna go. So if Nico Collins is out, I'm gonna go Jaden Higgins, number five. All right.
I like
So
it.
if Nico Collins is out, if Nico Collins is in, put Nico Collins at number five. That's where I'll
I
be
like
at
it.
right there. Tight end. I think this is probably the most challenging one of the bunch, right? Like the tight end position. Um, I look at Barner and I look that he's gonna be the more popular one. That's kind of what I'm not. That's why I'm not as attracted to it. But it is a good matchup here. But give me your top three tight ends.
So if let's just theorize that Nico Collins doesn't play. I'd probably go Schultz, Tongas, Colston, Loveland.
Schultz, Tongus, Colston, Loving. All right. I'm gonna go with Tong. I'm gonna go with Jake Tongs. I'm gonna go with Schultz, and then I'm gonna go with let's man, it's really close. So for me, it's really close between Loveland and the Rams tight end. Like I'm really,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go with Higby as my number three. All
Okay.
right, so there you go. That's my top three. But I'll say this, Loveland very close there as well for me, Chris. Final thoughts on the overall slate. Anything you got cooking? Anything you got that you want to promote? Say that, and then we'll get on out of here, Chris.
Yeah, I'll be on Discord both Saturday and Sunday. Answer any questions. If anyone has anything. The MLB draft guide is coming up with Ray Flowers. That's coming out soon. So keep an eye on that. We got baseball coming up. Pitchers and catchers start reporting in a month from now. So start getting locked in for baseball and another great season of it.
Yep, make sure you're checking that out. There's a lot of behind the scenes going on right now that no one's seeing. But yes, the MLB team is working very hard at the moment, making sure that there's a lot of content posted very soon once that MLB draft guide comes out. Make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're checking our NBA content out as well. We got a lot of great stuff there with the NBA team. Good content. We've had some takedowns. By the way, last week, one of our subscribers hit for 50K in the DFS and in the wild card round. He hit for 50K, second place in a FanDuel large field tournament there. First place was 100K. That gentleman got 50K for second place. So big congratulations out to that subscriber there. Make sure you check it out our DFS content on the site as well. We got postseason content for the playoffs all through the Super Bowl. We got our weekly staff picks, just so many things there. We got projections, we got weekly rankings, we got all that good stuff for those who are doing the drafters basketball contest. Good luck to you guys. Hopefully you drafted well and your teams are advancing. You can check all of my work over there at fantasyguru.com as well. You can find me on all social media platforms. You guys already know. Make sure you're checking out my YouTube channel at Mind of Marsal there. Remember, if you're enjoying the content, join everything. Please make sure you follow, like, review the podcast wherever it is you're consuming it. Thank you guys all for tuning in. For the great Chris Rose, I am Armando Marsal. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's journey through the Mind of Marsal. Until next time.